should you buy a Grand Design? I know over the last year, Grand Design's name, it's really been dragged through the ringer because of the relationship with FrameFlex and their RVs, specifically their fifth wheels and their larger fifth wheels. I know there's been a lot of creators out there who have also talked about Grand Design in a very negative way, and they've had negative experiences with their own units to the point that a lot of folks had lost faith in the brand Grand Design. So they're not paying me. They didn't fly me out here. They didn't do anything. They're not sponsoring me. And these guys are kind of a testament. We just had lunch, and I said, hey, let's go over to the fairgrounds. And look, there's Grand Design. We even talked about how it's set up exactly the same as it was set up last year. And there's nobody out here. I've ran into a few folks that are setting up some flowers, I think in the back over there and on the far side, but there's nobody from Grand Design out here. So I figured this is a really good opportunity to talk about, should you buy a Grand Design product? So first and foremost, I wish some of these units were unlocked. They're all locked up right now. So another testament to the fact that we just kind of dropped in on them and there's nobody out here that's opened anything up for us. So first and foremost, do I think Grand Design is a product that you should consider if you're looking for a new RV? The answer to that is absolutely yes. And the reason why I say that is any manufacturer who goes through what they went through would likely have responded the same way initially, would likely have dealt with customers in a very similar fashion, right? You have a handful. It wasn't dozens and dozens and dozens. It wasn't hundreds. It was a handful of people who were becoming very vocal about what they felt was poor quality in terms of how the RV was either assembled, how it was attached, all these different things. And I think for the most part, any manufacturer would have said, let's deal with this on a case-by-case basis, but then also let's look into the fact of how many of these were pre-owned units, how many of these do we have very little history on how they were used before, how many of these are being used so excessively that the likelihood of something failing would be higher. Of course, everyone goes into the RVing mindset like, we're gonna take this thing out every weekend. The reality is most people take their RV out 2 times a year, twice a year. I fully expect that if something happens while I'm taking it out to a trip, and when I get there, I'm 5 hours from home, I get there, I've set up the RV, I go inside, something's broken, a cabinet door's broken, maybe a blind has come loose, something's fallen off like that, or I go outside and maybe the trim around the fender right here, some of these screws have come out and it's hanging or dangling in some way. I'm the kind of guy that will go into my toolbox and fix it because I do not want to go back with this broken. And a lot of times for me, it's like I feel like if I do the repair, I might even do it better than the way that they did it. But that's the way I typically respond to repairs. And I tell a lot of folks, if you get into RVing, you have to not be afraid to do repairs. Not be afraid to do little things like this, because if little things like that upset you to the point to where you feel you have to call a dealership, schedule an appointment, and possibly be without your RV for months while it's in line getting worked on, you're going to hate RVing. RVing is a lot about maintenance. It's a lot about doing little things and taking into account that no trip could be perfect. If it is, that's great, it's a win. But if it's not, it's probably because things have upset you or frustrated you that you didn't expect and you were hoping would never happen, but then it does happen and you're like, it's ruined my trip. Now, when you take that same RV, and I said, you're gonna travel to a new place every single week with it, 3, 4, 5 hours at a time on the road, all over the country. At that point, you're using it at an entirely different level. It's almost like a tool, a power tool. If I give you a Milwaukee power drill and I give you a Craftsman power drill, and you use your Milwaukee power drill every single day for the next 3 years, and you use your Craftsman once a week for the next couple of months, you both put them in drawers, you pull them out, and you're like, my Milwaukee's not working anymore. Does it mean Milwaukee was a horrible brand because your Craftsman is still working? Probably not. It just means you've used the heck out of your Milwaukee and you're experiencing a much greater number of issues because of the amount of wear and tear you've put on it versus someone who doesn't. So when people ask me, Do I think Grand Design makes a bad product? I really don't. I think the vast majority of people who have had issues with their product have used it way, way, way more than people who typically don't. I don't have a lot of issues with my RV because our fifth wheel we use, I'm going to say on average, I'd probably say 8 to 10 times a year. Our travel trailer, we've been using a lot more because we've been using it for towing evaluations, things like that. But we still don't use it like a full-time RVer who's going to be traveling every single weekend to a new city across the country and then having to figure out what roads are paved well, what roads aren't, and things like that. So again, for the vast majority of people who buy an RV, they use it twice a year. And yes, it's very expensive once you realize you paid 80 grand, 100 grand for something that you use 2 times a year when you told yourself and you justified that you're going to use it like every single week. But I think you have to go into these things with the expectations that the more you use them, the higher likelihood things are going to break and fail. And I think the big fail in the industry is the fact that they don't set a good expectation on how often an RV should be used. I don't think that they would want to. I think that they would be a little afraid to do that. They say full-time rated, full-time warranted. That doesn't tell you anything. What I think the RV manufacturing industry, and this isn't just Grand Design, this is everybody, I think they should really tell you, this is at least our expectation. I would venture to say that towing your RV over 1,000 miles a year is excessive for a lot of people. It really would be. I mean, like, what's a good campground? How far is a good campground from where you live?
About what, hour and a half drive?
Hour and a half, so what would that be, maybe 80 miles?
Yeah, probably
something like that?
Miles, something like that.
So 80 miles there, 80 miles back, 160 miles round trip. So how many times, if you had an RV, would you go to that place per year?
Yeah, 4 or 5 times.
Exactly,
probably.
under 1,000 miles.
Yeah, for
yep.
Sure.
Now, if all of a sudden you love RVing and you're like, you know what, we're going to go full time. This six trip a year thing is BS. We need to go out there on the road and hit the road full time. Your RV's probably going to break full time.
No, and I think that's fair because if you don't understand that the RV is going to take a lot more abuse than your vehicle will, then you probably shouldn't be getting into it. So I think that's a fair expectation in the beginning to know that that's going to take a lot more wear and tear than your car will based on the same amount of miles.
Yep. And I think that's the lesson I'm trying to teach people here is that people are going to say, man, you're a sellout. What did they do? Did they pay you? Great advertisement. I'm not just talking about Grand Design. I'm talking about any brand. Grand Design just happens to be a major player that sells probably more fifth wheels and travel trailers than most of the industry combined. And because of that, you are going to have people who choose the lifestyle of RVing, and it's going to put a lot more wear and tear on equipment. And quite frankly, it doesn't mean the product is bad. It means you need to dial in your expectations of how the product is going to perform if you use it that much. Same way with the Milwaukee drill, same way with a Craftsman drill, same way with a barbecue grill, washers and dryers, things like that. But there's so many things that the more you use it, the more it's going to wear out. In 2024, do I think Grand Design's making a bad product? Absolutely not. Would I feel safe towing a Grand Design product? Absolutely, considering how we tow it. If I was going full-time with my family every week traveling somewhere new, I would probably have a better expectation of what to look out for considering I'm towing it that much. All right, any final comments from anybody? And this is more of an educational rant, so this wasn't really designed to like have an all-inclusive conversation. It's just when you have people surrounding you, I have an opportunity to kind of share that expectation that I would have, because you had a question earlier about quality of RVs. Right. Like, are these things actually built well? And I had to kind of rein it in and say, it really depends how you use it. That's what it comes down to. It depends how you use it. And that the same thing can be said for so many different things. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed the video, but I felt it was one that was needed because it sets the right tone on usage and understanding the expectations around using an RV and what that actually does to it. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.